I remember the first video I saw of yours was you at like the kitchen table making competition chicken thighs, putting the salad dressing in the Ziploc bag. And I was like, this is amazing. Like trying to get the inside scoop and stuff like that. And it was like early on. Like, that's so awesome.
YouTube was early. And she said, well, we're using this platform called YouTube to do some video stuff for some clients they were working with. And she's like, we could use that to get these video files. We could share a link and it doesn't eat up bandwidth, and we can host the video on our channel. So she created a channel and we didn't know what to call it. So she knew how-to stuff was a big search topic on Google. And so we just and I didn't have a name. So I was like, well, what if we just call it How to Barbecue Right?
All right, everybody, welcome to the Duce Raymond podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Malcom Reed. I'm so excited to see you, man. Welcome.
Duce, it's been a while, man. How you been? I've been following you on social. You're doing some great videos. I love seeing everything, man.
Oh, man. Thank you. Don't make me blush. I mean, you are the man when it comes to barbecue on social media. I see your face all the time. It's kind of funny with social media. We don't really get to see each other or interact in person, but, you're always showing up on my feed, so it feels like, we're barbecue brothers nonetheless.
That's right. We must be in the same algorithm because your stuff pops up every time you release it, and I always watch it.
That's awesome. Thank you, man. Well, today I would really like to hear how you got started in social, because I know it was a while back before, everybody was posting on social. So just tell us that story of how you got started, and really what I want to know is, like, what was your expectation when you first started posting on YouTube and things like that, and just get us going with that.
So, I didn't start out to do social media. It really wasn't a thing when we started. There was a few barbecue forums back in the day, but, I was in the competition side of things. So, I'm from South Haven, Mississippi, which is just right outside of Memphis. So Memphis in May was a huge influence to us in my early career. And I met my wife, and she knew I was doing competition barbecue, and she heard me talking about barbecue to my buddies all the time. It's like every conversation we had is always me on the phone or us out and about. People want to stop and talk barbecue. So she said, you need to share this. Well, this was back in the days of MySpace. This was before YouTube. This was before Facebook, all that stuff. So we started with the MySpace page. And of course, we bought a domain. We bought killerhogs.com, and this was before How to Barbecue Right. Well, we didn't plan on it being business or anything. It was just a fun way for me to share my hobby and love of passion for cooking barbecue. And so we started doing that, and I just started, it all was competition stuff at the beginning. It was raw.
Yeah.
We didn't have, fancy cameras. We didn't know what we were doing with cameras. We were just using a cheap flip cam, but we started, I guess my first dabble into social media was my wife was kind of doing some internet marketing, and she had me doing a newsletter. And I said, there's no way anybody's going to read a barbecue newsletter. Who would want to see that? And so, we started it, and I may have had, 5 or 10. I'm sure it was friends and family that subscribed at first. But that 5 or 10 subscribers turned into 100, turned into 1,000. And before you know it, the newsletter's hitting 100,000 people. And so I was like, maybe there is an audience for barbecue, because there just wasn't anybody doing it at the time.
Right.
And then, YouTube came out, and we had a company we were doing some video stuff for at Memphis in May, a matter of fact. And they sent us a camera to use so that we could get the footage and then send it back to them. Well, it was like, there's no way to email you this footage. It's too big. And my wife was doing some YouTube was early. And she said, well, we're using this platform called YouTube to do some video stuff for some clients they were working with. And she's like, we could use that to get these video files. We could share a link, and it doesn't eat up bandwidth, and we can host the video on our channel. So she created a channel, and we didn't know what to call it. So she knew how-to stuff was a big search topic on Google. And so we just and I didn't have a name. So I was like, well, what if we just call it How to Barbecue Right? And she's like, that might work. And so we didn't do it it wasn't really she probably had some vision for it. I wasn't, because I wasn't business minded at all. I just loved to cook barbecue. And so we started that YouTube channel, and that kind of kicked it all off, man. When we started that, people started watching these videos, and it was just like you were there hanging out with me. And I'm not a chef, you know, I'm not
Yeah.
trained or anything. I just
I
cook.
remember the first video I saw of yours was you at like the kitchen table making competition chicken thighs, putting the salad dressing in the Ziploc bag. And I was like, this is amazing. Like trying to get the inside scoop and stuff like that. And it was like early on. Like, that's so awesome.
That was the yellow kitchen days, we call it, man. That was a long time ago. You know, so that was probably 2009, 2010, right in that area. So if you think about it, I mean, that's been,
Yeah.
you know, 14, 15 years ago when we were doing that. So it's been a long, you know, people think that, you know, oh, you've been, you know, you do really good. And they don't see all the hard work and the years and years, the decades
Right.
of doing this and learning of what it took. But we, you know, after YouTube got going, we did the Facebook, and we've just kind of, we try to stay on the forefront. Whatever platform is out there that's getting eyes, we try to be
Hmm.
relevant on it. And you know, we don't.
Smart.
It's all, a lot of it's trial and error. And you know, we kind of got a good plan now of how we release stuff and what we do and game plan. And we've learned over the years. And we've added a few employees, and we've kind of grown slow. But you know, it's been a lot of fun. You know,
At what point did you like take it from this is fun and a hobby to like this is your full-time job? Like, and you know what interests me so much is because that your wife was involved from the get-go,
yes.
because I could see how that could cause issues. Like if you're doing this stuff and she's not like in the picture, she'd be like, "Are you nuts? What are you doing?" But that's awesome that she was right there from the start. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I kind of was not really forced into it, but you know, my background was in commercial construction. I was in, you know, I was an intern architect for a firm and outside of Memphis, and that's what I went to school for. And so I was working, but then in 2008, the recession hit, and I'd only been with the company about 3 years, and so I was with a low man on totem pole, and a couple other guys. We got laid off, and then luckily I did get a job with another firm downtown, and I worked with them, but the recession was still going strong, and I was there maybe a year or two, and I was still doing the barbecue stuff at this time, but not, you know, not for profit. I was just
Right.
doing it. I didn't have rubs or sauces to sell, but you know, I loved competition barbecue, and I loved sharing what I was learning. And so by that second layoff, you know, I got a little money, and we had a little savings. I think at the time we had like 6 months of, you know, all our bills covered, all our mortgage, you know, everything to live
Right.
off of. We had 6 months worth of money, which is not a lot. But
No.
and then what little severance I got, at that time I was making rubs myself and like doing them cottage style, to where everything was at home, and I was just selling them like at a farmer's market or friends and family. I probably wasn't supposed to be doing some of it. I don't know how legal it was, but I realized quick that it was growing so fast that I couldn't keep up, and so I was going to have to deal with a co-packer. And so I took
Yep.
what money we had, and I bought, you know, I worked with a co-packer, and I got my first pallet of seasonings in. That it was just one product, and when we got that delivered, it was just me and Rochelle. That was it, me and Shell. And so we
Yep.
said, we're gonna. I don't know how we're gonna sell this. You know, we probably never will, but we're gonna try our best. We're gonna start making videos, and we're gonna put our product out there, and we're gonna do our. And we did it all. I mean, we did that for 10 years, just me and her. Out
Wow.
of our house, we would make videos. We would, you know, do. She had a social plan on how we were gonna, you know, make posts and take pictures and learn to do video. And then the whole time we're taking orders, and we're the packers and the shippers and the customer service. We're the whole thing.
The whole
And
thing,
yeah,
man.
we're trying to sell to wholesale people because people were wanting to buy in the mom and pop stores. That was kind of, you know, what kicked us off. There was a few mom and pop stores that took a risk on us to bring our products in, and we've just grown it over the years and been steady. And I haven't had a real job since 2008.
That's amazing. I just love that story of like taking a chance and going after it and making it happen. That's so cool. When did you see like when stuff really started to kick up on YouTube? Was it like a slow, steady climb, or did you get like a bump at some point or something? Because you're like 1.7 million subscribers or something like that.
It's pretty slow. I mean, the first 100,000 was what was slow,
Yeah.
because you had to build that base and people had to watch. And so
Right.
and those were the early days when we really didn't know what we were doing. Like we didn't
And
have,
not everybody was on YouTube
yeah,
then
not
like
everybody.
they are today.
There was one other people that was kind of like the threshold, and it was those barbecue pit boy guys,
Right.
because
Okay.
they had started a little bit before me, but they shot up too. And so I was always chasing them, and those guys did a fantastic job. but that
Yep.
was really the only ones out there. I mean, there was a few other people that kind of started when I did, but the
Mm-hmm.
whole thing with it was we were just consistent. Man, we
Yeah.
never stopped. No matter if the video hit, if it didn't hit, we knew we were going to make a video this week. We were going to try to get it edited and whatever we knew how to edit, which was real rough and real raw at first. But we were going to
Yeah.
put something out. We were going to get it on a consistent basis to where we were constantly. People knew that if it was a Thursday, they were going to get a video from me. And so, and it got to where I ran out of competition stuff to do videos on.
Yeah. You
Had to,
run out of that real fast.
and so that's kind of what trajected me towards cooking everything. And
Right.
I had different grills. I've always been one of those persons like you don't have to have a specific grill. You don't have to use my seasonings to
Right.
duplicate these recipes. Barbecue is all about taking an idea and making it your own, whether it's something someone cooks on the oven, the
100%.
stove top, the flat iron, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's about taking those and make them in your own, and that's kind of what I've always had that philosophy. Like if someone asks me how to do something, I say you don't have to do it just like me. Take the technique and apply the technique, but make that recipe your own. Use the seasonings that you and your family like, or use your sauces that y'all like. And I think people do a great job of that, and they relate. They don't think you're trying to. I'm not trying to tell you exactly how to do something. I'm just sharing. So,
Right.
and it kind of resonated with people. I think people feel like they're there with me because that's kind of the style, the approach I take.
That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about. I heard that, and I think it was maybe on the Rempe show, that you said you were going to not do competitions anymore. Talk about a little bit like when you first got started in competitions, you were Killer Hogs with your brother. What were some of those early days like in Top Awards? And then what led you to the decision of really kind of not taking a back seat on the competitions for right now?
Well, so we started out. It was we had a pretty big team, but it was like a party team. That's all we did, and we started out in the backyard division. But me and my brother kind of got serious about it, and I met my wife Rochelle, and she started coming and helping us at contests. So it was just the three of us for a long time, and we would
Okay.
just we knew that we didn't have the budget or the money and sponsors, the backers to really compete every single contest. But we would load up a pickup truck and throw some grills in the back, and we'd go cook ribs. We'd jump in there with the big dogs. We would cook the pro categories, and we might just do ribs, but we would go pretty much anywhere that we could get within 8 to 10 hours of home. And so we started doing that, and we, built up a
And
pretty.
that was straight Memphis style cooks.
That was
MBN.
it was back then it was the Memphis and May network, and then it changed
Okay, yeah, yeah.
the network, and we still did it. But we also found the KCBS network around that time too. So we started doing some of both. And then we ended up, it got to a point where we were doing 25, 26 contests a year, which
That's a
for
lot.
us, still trying to work, was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a big commitment. You're talking half the year you're cooking somewhere. And there were stretches where we would go 7, 8 weeks straight. And it's like you got to get in the habit of going home, reloading, getting all your stuff ready, and getting back out there. And we cut our teeth doing that, man. And it was like learn as you go and just try to stay consistent. And we've had some pretty good luck. We've been on the big stage at Memphis in May. We've got calls at the Jack. We've got calls at the Royal.
That's awesome.
I've won some pretty big steak cook-offs. We got into that for a little bit.
Yeah.
If it was competitive cooking, I was game for trying it. We
Yeah.
won Hogs for the call
Same.
here down in New Orleans, and I love the camaraderie, the family. It feels like when you're out at a contest. I'm telling you, you meet some of the best people in the country, in the world, cooking
Yeah.
barbecue, and it's just I think it's the love of food, the love of being outdoors and cooking food over fire. People just gravitate to it.
The camaraderie is unbeatable, man. That's what really drew me to competition barbecue. I love to compete. Like it's in my blood. Like whether it was playing basketball in grade school or cooking in culinary school, like I wanted to win. I wanted to be the best. And combined with like the party aspect and the drinking and the fun with the friends and everything, competition barbecue was lights out for me. It was like this is amazing. Like it was so fun. And I actually, a couple years ago said the same thing. I just can't do it anymore. So I was just wondering how you felt about that.
Well, I do miss going out there and competing on a weekly basis. It's just that this has turned into a full blown business for us. We've got
Yeah.
15, 16 employees here that I'm responsible for, and then
Yeah.
and the more people you add, the harder it gets. I'm not going to lie, because
Oh yeah.
there's a whole side to business that people don't see that don't do it. Because when it was just me and Rochelle, we just had to decide to work, but now
Yeah.
you've got these other people that you have to be responsible for. And so it
Yeah.
takes a lot. Well, we found, I mean, I do some judging now. I do, there's still some contests where I'll jump in and do. I've been having fun with some wild game cooking here lately. We just did one recently. So I'm not through doing competition barbecue, but I'm through running a schedule, like
Yeah.
trying to run a season on one of them. There's going to be contests that I'm going to go have fun at and cook. I won't say, I mean, if if you're firing them up and there's a trophy involved, I'm going to be try to be competitive, but I don't
Yeah.
have it as bad to where I think I've got to get out there and run week to week to week.
Right.
That's a big commitment, man. I just you can't have the I don't have the time to do that right now. There may be a time in my life where I get to retire, if we call
Yeah.
it retiring, when I get to go back and do some of that. But
That's awesome.
it's still fun to me. I still have a passion for it. There's just
Mhm.
there's a lot of other things out there too that I love to do and we want to be a part of.
When you're talking about like the business side of your business, there's, the posting, but then there's production of the sauces and distribution for all that and working on retail. Who's been a mentor to you in that process? Like, who have you looked to for help and trying to get, the whole business to operate like a business versus it's just like, you're at home with your wife posting and trying to see what works. Now you guys are established and like you said, you're responsible for other people and, where have you found inspiration or help from to get that side of the business going?
So I mean, a lot of it like we didn't have a lot of people mentors basically, but I had some great people in barbecue that I've met that are my mentors.
Hmm.
I mean, your uncle's one. Dave, he's
Mm.
been an open book. If I've ever had a question about something, and I think it's just because he's done it, and he's just the type person that will share.
Right.
He's an open type person, but he was real,
He always tells people is like, you'll stop asking questions before I'll stop answering
Yeah,
them.
that's exactly true. But Mike
Yeah.
Mills was another one that was really influential to us. I remember going to they used to do a business of barbecue class. It was like a weekend long class, 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so we went. I went to that one year, but my buddy Mark Lambert, he was kind of doing it before I was, so he was real influential. When we got started and helping out. So we have, I've had some people, some really big names in the barbecue world that are friends that I consider them friends. Not just
Sure.
mentors, but good friends. And you run across, I think you run across people in that. I mean, barbecue is competitive. There's no doubt about it. It's always been, everybody had a secret sauce recipe. I mean, your family's famous for one.
Yeah.
You knew how that was. Nobody really shared that kind of stuff back in the day. And
Yeah.
then it kind of happened, and I like to think that I was kind of on the forefront. I wouldn't say I won't take responsibility for sharing all the secrets, but I realized quick that, man, there's not a lot of great information out there, and there's not somebody that's just, you know,
When I first started competition barbecue, it was no joke impossible to figure out what the money muscle was. If you didn't know, you just didn't know. Like, where is it? What are you talking about slicing this in loins? I mean, and that's like one of the first videos I did when we started getting some traction because I'm like, people need to know this and they want to know. And it's like one of the best pieces of meat you'll ever have if it's done right. I'm like, other people should know about this. But you're absolutely right. There's barbecue is it's kind of like grandma's secret recipe or this is the award winning sauce. It's kind of it has that vibe to it for sure.
absolutely.
Um, so what's next for you guys? What do you have on the horizon?
Well, I mean, of course, I'm not. I'm still turning out barbecue videos. I love cooking. I love filming the recipes and sharing all that. So I'm not going to stop doing that. But
Yeah,
I'm also when I'm not cooking barbecue, I like to hunt and fish. And so I started kind of another. I wouldn't call it a business. It's more of a project.
yeah,
It's some of the guys that work with me. They hunt with me, and we have some land that's not too far from here in Hernando where we're at that we do. We've been really getting into taking care of the land and making wildlife habitat better on the property that we have. And it's not a lot of property, but the idea is this is how regular people are doing it. We're not some
mm-hmm.
fancy hunting show or anything like that, and we don't have the most land, but what we can do with the land that we have available and enjoying being outdoors, and we're bringing some of the cooking aspect of cooking some of the game that we're able to harvest doing videos with that or showing what that deer camp lifestyle is like,
Right.
at least for us. And so it's more, it's kind of vlog, but kind of recipe video, kind of,
What's the name of that channel? Is that
Buck,
on YouTube?
yeah, it's on YouTube. It's called Buck Junkies. Uh,
Okay. Buck Junkies.
yeah,
Nice.
Bug Junkies. But we do a podcast with it as well, and we make
Okay.
videos on there. We're on all the social platforms, and we have a really fun time with that when we're not barbecuing. But they kind of overlap. It's the same audience. A lot of the guys that,
Yeah.
that are out here and into barbecue, they also like to hunt and fish and do stuff outside. So it kind of makes sense to me to have both of those.
It's kind of funny. I'm a podcast junkie and I listen to all sorts of stuff, whether it's informational, educational, just entertainment. Like I'll listen to Joe Rogan, like, everybody else. But besides some of the science stuff he talks about, the other stuff that I don't know anything about that I really enjoy is the hunting stuff.
He is
I mean,
into it, yes.
it's just so cool, like to think about going out on that elk hunt and everything. He puts you in those places and talking to these guys that are. It just sounds amazing to me. I know nothing about hunting. I went hunting one time in my whole life, even though I grew up in Wisconsin. But it just sounds cool. I'd love to
Yeah.
check it out, and that's something I aspire to do, even though I'm not, all into it. It still sounds so cool, like. And it's got that feel to it, like you said, like the barbecue guys are same type of person would enjoy that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's something that I like doing. I have a passion for being outside, and
Yeah.
there's nothing better than harvesting a deer and then being able to grill it up and share that with your friends and family. I mean, it's such good meat too, and there's all kinds of stuff out there like that. That's fun. Like I've been hard into turkeys here this year, the first year really, and man, it's so much fun chasing them turkeys.
That's awesome. Um, Talk about the podcast a little bit. When did you get started in the podcast, and what kind of was the thought process there, and how do you go about like picking your guests and stuff like that?
So we started. I guess we're like on season 7. So that's 7 years that we've been. You think that we'd be really good at it, but it's a slow burn. We have
I
fun.
think you guys are great. You got the right equipment because your voice sounds amazing on there. I
Yeah,
mean, it really does. I was listening to one this morning about one of the last ones you did about the GE smoker and the Wagyu steak
yeah.
and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, they sounds good.
Well, and that was kind of, the reason why I got the mics and stuff I did was I saw Joe Rogan was using them. Somebody did a video of his tour setup, and I said, "Oh,
Oh,
we
really?
gotta have those Shure mics. Those are the best
Yeah.
sounding mics. Joe Rogan uses them." So
Yeah.
we started. We went to, and I know you're familiar with it, the National Barbecue Association. They have a yearly conference, and it's
Yep.
probably been 7, 8 years ago that Shell and I went, and there was that year. I think Greg Rippey was there, the barbecue central,
Okay.
and there was a couple other guys that had some podcasts, and we just started listening to them. And I was new to podcasting. I had listened to a few, but
Right.
I wasn't like an avid listener to podcasts like I am now. And
Right.
I mean, it's crazy how much podcasts have taken off
Oh, it's
because
unbelievable.
people are tuning out of old fashioned TV, and you can get so specific and find something that you're interested in, and there's probably a podcast out there for it. So people are really into podcasts. I listen to a couple every day, every day.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't in the car. I don't listen to the radio anymore. It's always a podcast, and I've got like a whole bunch of them I listen to, and it just depends on what I want to hear that day. And like it could be about barbecue or health and fitness or business. I listen to a lot of business stuff. But it's endless. It's so much different than it was 10 years ago.
So, and we just pretty much decided to jump in after we went to that conference and we heard these guys talking about their podcast. I mean, I've been doing podcast as a guest for a while, since I
Mm-hmm.
started making a little name for myself in the barbecue world. People that
Mm-hmm.
had some podcasts would ask me to come on them. A lot of them were more like radio shows. They weren't like podcasts are now at first, but now
Right.
it's interesting to see how the evolution of podcasting, how it's grown. But we
Sure.
just, we got some. I looked up. I was sure I was YouTubing how to start a podcast and basic equipment for a podcast. So,
Yep.
we went on like Amazon, bought us a little board, bought us a couple mics and some headsets, and we didn't do video for like the first 2 years. I think it was season 3. Maybe we started with the video version because it really
Yeah.
wasn't a thing. People were just doing audio. And so,
Right. And now it's great because you could take clips just like you guys do and a lot of people do and put it on TikTok and Reels and everything. And it's like that could be the thing that could get someone interested and bring them back to your channel to see all
sure,
the videos and everything else.
absolutely, we get a lot of great content out of our podcast by doing the video and then going back. And I look at it as, and I'm not advertising my podcast anywhere, but those little clips, those little reels that you create out of the podcast, it may be informative, it may be funny, it could be anything. Those
Yep.
are advertisements when you put them out there on the different social platforms for somebody to come back and listen to a whole hour podcast. That's typically what
Right.
we do, an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. That seems about right. What sometimes you get when I tell people I'm getting starting a podcast, like, and they don't really get it, like,
Yeah,
How are you going to do a podcast and what are you going to talk about all those times? But what I think is it's like such a good, it's like a triple win. It's good for me because it gives me a chance to get out and talk to people, create relationships or strengthen relationships, just like we're doing here today. And then it's good for whoever I'm having on the show to talk about what they're doing and send some people back their way and vice versa. And then it's good for content to be able to put more content out and it could be the thing just to bring them back into us. So I'm like really excited about it because and we're just getting started, but I'm feeling like really good about it because we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I wouldn't get to see your smiling face and then who knows what's going to lead from this. Next thing I know, I'm going to be in your backyard.
that's true, man. Hey, you never know. And well, the one thing, it's not a big financial investment. I mean,
Right.
we bought our first equipment. We had a very limited budget, and we got we spent a couple $100, and we had enough stuff. And getting on one of the hosting platforms is not expensive either. So really,
Right.
it's sweat equity. It's you putting your time into it and just letting it grow. That's what I think most people get hung up is that nobody's going to listen, or why is it even worth me doing this? I'm not getting many listens. That doesn't matter. It'll come over time. Everything's going to take a little bit of time. I don't believe in fast tracking anything. I think if you put your mind to it that you can do it and you're going to be committed to it and get on a regular schedule, the listeners, the subscribers, the fans, all that'll come.
Right. And like you said earlier, consistency. If you're doing it consistently, there's so many guys that can start out and they can do a handful of stuff, but not a lot of people have the fortitude or, things got to keep going right. If stuff's not working for you, you might have to switch gears and do something else. But, if you're consistent over a long period of time, I really feel like there's success around the corner if you can do that.
Sure.
So this is interesting to me because we're just starting to like understand like having enough views on YouTube to like start monetization and stuff like that from views. How do you look at that? Is that a big part of your business? Is it something that you strive for? Because we're getting paid a little bit on Reels, a little bit from TikTok, and a little bit from we're just like on the cusp of YouTube hitting that like 10 million views in 90 days or something like that. So how does that come into play with how you think about things?
We never, like, that was one thing we never really set out to make money on YouTube. I looked at it as that was my billboard, that was my commercial, that's my marketing budget. So we were spending money to make these videos and put them
Right.
out there, and then by letting them roll some advertisements, they actually pay you back. And so it does end up being a little bit of money. I
Yeah.
don't think that I could make a whole business off just doing that. It's nice
Right.
to know that I'm getting a little back for my investment of making my own, promotions pretty much.
Right.
There's not very many industries where they pay you to 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 show your stuff. So it works out great from us from a creator standpoint.
Right.
But getting caught up in how much that revenue is and what I need to do, we've never really done that. And I mean, we may have left money on the table by not, but you see so many people getting worried about, oh, I got to get this many views or this many likes and all that. Just let it. If you're making something organically and it's catching traction and you're consistent with it and people are watching it, all that's going to come to you anyway. You don't have to spend so much time worrying about that side of it. I mean, if you're dependent on that for your primary income stream, I would say you probably need to go do something else
Yeah.
because it's
That's
not
tough.
lucrative money or anything.
Right.
You see all
And it's not predictable.
yeah.
You know.
Do you see all these things, people, whether they go viral and they're making, millions of dollars. And I've never seen that. I mean, I've never seen money like that myself from it. There may be some people that are able to do it, but I don't know if they're in barbecue doing it.
Yeah, that's tough. Um, where are you at with the Killer Hogs product line as far as how much, what percentage are you online sales versus retail, and do you plan to go more into retail, or are you happy selling online, or how do you think about that?
We're split pretty even. We've always had our website where we sell from. That's the How to Barbecue Right website with the shop, and the Killer Hogs website goes to that shop too. So it's all the same
Yeah,
shop. And we actually do those orders and customer service, all that stuff. But a big part of our business too is the wholesale side, which is the business to business side, the B2B. And that was, kind of carried us for a little while before we got our retail sales up. We would sell to mom and pop barbecue supply stores or hardware stores or little grocery stores. And then we started dabbling with doing Amazon, and so Amazon's grown a lot. And then we've got into bigger box retail like your Walmarts or your Kroger's, your larger chains, your Ace
I
Hardware,
saw you in Walmart, even up
things
here.
like
That
that.
was impressive.
So those numbers, I mean, those skew a lot because, I mean, those big stores like to beat you up on prices. So, I mean, absolutely. If someone buys from my website, I definitely make more of the money on it because it's me.
Yeah.
When I have to, sell something to someone else and then they have to mark their price on it and be cheaper than somebody else, they start beating you up on pricing. But we're probably, we're still 50-50. Sorry about that. I had a little
You're
ding
cool.
there, but we're still about 50-50 on, our sales versus all the wholesale stuff combined. And
Yeah.
so it's pretty tit for tat, but I would imagine that bigger box retail, the more chains that add, the more stores they have, they'll end up taking over my individual sales one of these days.
Yeah.
Right now, it hasn't happened, but we're still. So not only do I do the Killer Hogs products, but I started making a Malcom's line of products, which is more. It's not just barbecue stuff. Like I've got a Cajun seasoning, Italian seasoning, a jerk seasoning. So I've done things like that, and I do some hot sauces, and I do some pickles. I've done some other grill cleaner products and things like that. So I'm kind of diversifying instead of just concentrating on Killer Hogs barbecue products. I feel like I've got a pretty good line of those. I've got 5 seasonings and 3 sauces and a hot
Yeah.
sauce
You
under the
got
Killer
that
Hogs
covered.
table. So some of the other stuff, I just try to do it so there's some diversity to what we're doing.
What's that one called? Is it the Gringo seasoning?
The Grande
I
Gringo,
got
that's my Mexican.
Grande Gringo. I gotta check that out, man. That sounded so good. I was watching the beef cheeks video. Man, those look so good.
You
Uh,
know how good beef cheeks are, man.
People don't know because it's not like super common, but
Yeah.
man, that melts in your mouth. And I saw you make that sauce you were braising them in.
Uh,
I was like, boy, I gotta try
it's,
some of that.
that's some good stuff, man. That's one of the finer things in life. Some good cooked down, smoked and braised beef cheeks and all that good juice it makes in that pot. You got that consomme that you can strain, and oh man, it's so good.
Yeah. When we were in culinary school, the dean of culinary school, Chris Ketke, he was like a big deal, and we didn't even see him that much because he was on TV and doing all this stuff. But whenever he had like a special dinner, there was people coming in, and me and my wife. I met my wife at culinary school actually. We were always like, he'd always come to us because he knew we would help him out. He'd be like, "Oh, I need help! I need help! I need help!" And every time he did a special dinner, he did braised beef cheeks, and it was just like super high quality. And that's where I really learned about beef cheeks. But man, they're so good, and we've done them a couple different ways on our channel too. And it's like, yeah, people just don't know. It was so funny. The one time, one of our biggest pop off videos was beef cheeks, and I said something about like, check out this meat you've never seen before. And all the Hispanic culture got on my ass. I cook that every Sunday. And it was like, that's what made the video go crazy because the Hispanics were so pissed that I was like, this white boy doesn't know what beef cheeks are. But that's what you love about social media.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, man. I was going to ask you about the Malcom products. So that's very cool. All right. This is question from Uncle Dave. He said, say hi to Malcolm for me and then ask him, what is your ideal hold time for a brisket?
A minimum of 2 hours. A minimum of 2 hours. But
Agreed.
I like to go 3 to 4, man.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of resting everything, especially large cuts of meat. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
you let that cooking process stop. and that when you're cooking, you're pushing all the moisture out of the meat, so it's trying to get away from it, trying to get done. But when you
Mm-hmm.
stop it, you've got it all pushed out to the extremities. Well, when you let it rest, it just slows down, and that meat. It's not really like a sponge. It's not going to get juicier, but that juice that's in there is going to get redistributed. So you're going to get a juicier product, and I think it ends up being so much better. And I started seeing this, Deuce, when we would go to contest, and I never could understand like why I could take a brisket off the pit and we'd cut it and slice it and get it in a box and turn it in, and it just we thought it was really good. But then we bag all that meat up and we go home, and after it's been resting in the cooler, and we get it back home, and I try it. I look at the scores I got, and I'm eating the brisket, and it's just blowing me away. I was like, "How did I get these low scores? And this is this good?" And I
Yeah.
got to realize that, man, it's because this meat's sitting there and it's resting, and it's so much better. Even after we've sliced it, those slices have rested, and they're in the juice, and they're in that bag, and they're just staying warm. And so we started doing that. We started putting that in our time schedule with our butts, with our
Yep.
briskets. Then we even figured out if you give ribs an hour rest, they're better than they are when they come off the pit too. So we started doing it with everything, and I apply it to just about everything I cook.
That would be the number one thing. If I went back and did a competition, I would have the stuff done so much more ahead of time. You can be more relaxed about things. You can really do the finishing touches, and that meat's just rested and juicy and tender and ready. They're not getting it hot anyways. Like
Exactly.
you can hold it in a Cambro, but by the time you slice it and sauce it and garnish it, and they get it, it's not going to be hot anyway. So that's the number one thing. If I went back and did a competition, I would have that timeline set up so that stuff's done and holding and getting nice and happy for sure, man. I mean, you learn a lot actually doing these videos, because you have to produce so many different ideas to come up with. That's what I was going to ask you earlier was what are some of the inspiration for you to come up with these new ideas and recipes? I mean, you guys are on like how many videos do you shoot a week, and where do you find some of your inspiration?
Well, so what I started, I learned this a long time ago. I've got to keep me kind of a running list of ideas. So whether it's on a spreadsheet on my computer or notes in my cell phone or just a legal pad where I jot stuff down, I've always got kind of this library of ideas to where,
Yeah.
and I've been a cookbook junkie and a Food Network or TV show. A lot of it was public access as a kid cooking show guy. I mean, I just remember all my life, I was gravitated towards it. I mean, my mom was a heck of a cook. My granny was a heck of a cook. Everything around our families was always centered around the kitchen, and I love to eat. So I was just kind of drawn to, where are these recipes coming from? It might be the little old church lady's cookbook or something like that. I would flip through it and I get ideas from that. And when I see these recipes and how they do it, I was like, I wonder if I can do this or something similar on a smoker, on a grill, or outside some kind of way. So I'll jot those ideas down, and then as we're building our schedule of when we're going to film, I'll come back and I'll like, well, we know, May's barbecue month. I'm going to need to do something with some pork, some ribs or some barbecue chicken. So I'll go to my look and I'll see what kind of ideas I had, and I may tweak them, but a lot of it's just something I just thought of and tried, or
Right.
and I've done, I don't know how many I've done now. Wow, it's up there. But a lot
Yeah.
of them I'm able to go back and revisit because I may do it different now than what I did back in the Yellow Kitchen days or something like that. Or I may want to
Yep.
recreate that recipe that I did a long time ago to see if there's a way I can improve on it, or if it's still as good as I remember it back then. So the ideas are endless to me. I never really get stuck. You never find me like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to cook this week. There's always something, or I've got a pretty good plan of
Are
something an
you
idea.
pretty are you pretty free as far as you're just going to cook what you want to cook or what idea you think is good, or do you try to chase the algorithm or something that we try to do is like, what does our audience want? Of course we look at our views and how many likes and stuff the videos get, so we try to take that into consideration. But sometimes it's really hard. It's like what I like to do a lot, and you see some of my stuff is like we'll do pair traditional smoky method or traditional barbecue with international flavor profiles. That's like my passion of mine.
Yeah.
but god damn, nobody else likes it. I swear to God, nobody likes those videos. It's like you show them how to slice a brisket, we get 1 million views. You show them international tri-tip with chimichurri sauce, they're like, nah, Duce, keep that. So it's like, it's hard for me as a chef, especially. It's like, I like to do all these new ideas, but it's like, sometimes that doesn't really translate into what people are really going to watch or want to watch.
I try to do a mixture. I know what we call them bangers. When there's going to be a
Bangers,
banger,
yep.
it's going to be your brisket, it's going to be your ribs, it's going to be your pork butt. It's something that everybody's cooking that over the years always gets hits. But for me,
Yep.
everything doesn't have to be about views. I have to enjoy doing it
Right.
first. And I don't want to get burnt out. That's why I cook some of the other stuff and I take a gamble. I mean, I cook lamb. I know nobody's going to watch me cook lamb. Number one, huge fan. My
It looked
wife loved
delicious, by the way.
it. Was that last lamb video I did was fantastic. No, it didn't do. I
Yeah,
mean, when I say it didn't do good, it still got 30, 40,000 views, which is pretty
sure.
good. But we're also getting other content out of that video shoot too. There might be something I did where how I set up the grill, and all of a sudden I've got a 2 zone fire setup video that I can use for something. Or I've
Yeah,
got how to trim. There's just different things that you can get out of them. So we're always thinking like that too. But I mean, I do a lot of stuff around the seasons. Of course, the
yeah,
holidays and seasons is an easy way to frame out kind of a year for filming, and then come back
right,
in with put some bangers in there that are never going to be bangers, and then throw some experimental stuff, and then I'll even throw cocktails in there, or
right.
there's always endless supply of things that I can throw in there, so I don't get bored with it. And that's the
Right.
whole thing. If I was trying to shoot I mean, I would drive myself crazy if I was trying to make a 1 million view video every single time and get hung up on these views.
Right.
A lot of them, I know I'm going to be, hopefully I'm on that day. I'm feeling good and the video turns out great and hopefully it does good. But if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. It's really not because I know I'm going to make
Yeah.
another one and then I'm going to make another one and I'm just going to be consistent. I'm going to constantly be making them. And the great thing about YouTube is that stuff is cataloged there. It's
Right.
there. I mean, I hope forever, as far as we're concerned. So it's not like like some social media platforms, like people don't really go back and watch the old stuff you do because it's a
Hmm.
constant scroll. But on YouTube, it's more of a library. It's more
And they
someone
can
can go in
search
there and search it. They can search
forever.
it
Yeah.
and it's going to be there. And I've found that a lot of people flag these videos or they'll reference them and they might watch them a dozen times because every time they cook, every time they make a pork butt, they're going to go check out that video. And so you get a
Yep.
lot of replayability off of all of it. So it's not like you just do it once and it's forgotten. Just because something doesn't hit right now, there may become a day where that lamb's super popular and it might blow up, 10 years from now. And it's still
R-
there. And you can still go back and watch a lot of my early stuff. And so I
Yep.
think that's a really cool aspect that YouTube does is like you can really catalog stuff there and that lasts forever.
Do you guys do like weekly long form on YouTube, or how many long form videos are you doing on
So
YouTube?
now we've kind of views or eyeballs on stuff has kind of changed a lot. So we've noticed that short form content has kind of became king. That's what people want. People have limited time where they're just going to put eyes on something. Everybody wants to scroll the next one. So we realized that pretty early, and we started concentrating on our short form TikToks, Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook Reels, all this other stuff. So we kind of pulled back on long form a little bit. I still release one, but usually it's about every 2 weeks. That's kind of
Okay.
we run like a week of short form content and 1 week for long form content, and we just keep constantly rotating that 2 week schedule.
Yeah.
So, and then we still get some short form stuff when I do long form, but that's kind of
For
our
sure.
plan. And what it's done for us, it's gave an extra week by not trying to do a weekly video. It's let my editors kind of have extra time. The stuff that nobody sees is how many hours goes into actually producing that 6 to 12 minute video. There's way
Mm-hmm.
more time goes into that than to getting the video to where you can watch it than it is me cooking the stuff. So it
Right.
might spend 2 days cooking recipes. Well, it's going to take them 2 weeks to get that edited to where it's ready to go. And so Rochelle did it all. She filmed it, she edited it in a day, and then we put it out. But that's such a taxing schedule for somebody
Mm-hmm.
to do that. You'll kill yourself doing that all the time.
Yeah, you don't understand as much. until you do it, because it's like the way our setup is, we'll do every other week. We'll shoot 2 videos. So we have a videographer. Does an amazing job. She actually films and edits, and then we have another post production. He's our content strategist, Matt, where he'll actually load it onto the platform, put all the subtitles, put the music on. We try to, something that a lot of people don't do, that that we think really has helped us to actually have more success, is when we're in the app, whatever platform we're using, whether it's TikTok or Instagram Reels, we'll use the tools inside that app for the subtitles and for the music and all the finishing touches. Matt calls it the last mile. And those apps really like when you use their stuff, and that can help you, propel your video and, get in the algorithm where it's hitting more people. But yeah, so we'll film 2 videos, take a week off, and then film 2 videos, and we'll get a little bit ahead, and then so we're releasing, but then we'll release like clips. We'll take clips from 2022 and change them up, and then repost that and stuff like that. Except on YouTube, they don't really like when you use some of the, even if it's similar content. I don't know. It seemed like Matt was telling me about that.
YouTube's picky like that, man. They want
Yeah.
the content to be unique to YouTube. They don't like a lot of the duplication. They don't like,
Yeah.
you
Got
gotta
to keep
fly
it
by
fresh.
their rules, or it feels like you might get throttled a little bit. You see it across all platforms, though. It's really crazy. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows what this algorithm's forever changing. Once you think you've got something figured out, they go and change something. And so
That's
we've
for sure.
kind of, I don't say that we don't look at it real close, but
Yeah.
I've always like, we're going to blaze this trail our way. And whether it gets eyes
Yeah.
or it don't get eyes, and some of this stuff will hit, some of it won't. But as long as you're having fun doing it, Deuce, I promise you, it's worth it, man.
Yeah. Well,
Up.
you're doing an awesome job, man. When I asked you for guys that I look for inspiration, it's like, it's barbecue, and like, I'm going to see what Malcolm's doing, what's working for him, and everything like that. And I think, to me, Matt was told, do you remember when you did pork belly on a stick?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I did a rendition on it, but you did more of like a traditional barbecue flavor on it, and I made it like an Asian inspired one. But I'm like, dude, look at that pork. It looks amazing. And I can't remember if that one, I'm probably must have, otherwise I wouldn't have found it, but it probably hit for you. So I'm like, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to put my international flavor profile on it. And it didn't hit that well. But I was like, this video is amazing. The editing was awesome. The recipe was awesome. It's like, this is a winner. So it's like, if everyone doesn't feel the same way, it is what it is. But I'm going to keep on doing that because it makes me happy and keeps it interesting. But
That's the right attitude to have, man.
yeah,
As you're having fun with it, it's worth doing.
yeah. Um. So, I got one more thing that we're gonna go do a lightning round real quick. But before we go, just real quick, I think everybody knows, but where do you want people to go to check your information? Where can they find you online?
It's how to BBQ right, RIGHT, on all the platforms. Or you
There we
can
go.
search for Malcolm Reed and see what pops up. Me or a Star Trek guy.
Yeah. Oh man.
There's a Star Trek
Uh,
guy named Malcolm Reed too. So
no way.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh. All right. Well, something I'm checking out with our podcast guests is to do a lightning round. So I got a list of 10 things. It's going to be a name or a phrase or something like that, and you just give your quick response to it.
All right, let's go.
So here we go. Lightning round. The last smoker you'll own.
Oh, Old Hickory.
Greg Rempe.
Oh, one of the best barbecue podcast talk show hosts there is.
Instagram or YouTube?
YouTube.
Memphis Rub. Memphis Ribs. I'm sorry.
Dry all day long.
TikTok band.
Like a music band?
No, like it's going to be banned. Like could be
Oh,
banned. What does that make you feel like?
man, I hope not, but I don't think so. I don't think they will. I think there's too many people on it. I think it's too good a platform.
Favorite steak?
Ribeye.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Oh yeah, he's got a little bit of Memphis connection too. He did some wrestling here in his younger days with Downtown Bruno, and he lived with them. I like the Rock, man.
Memphis in May or Smoke Slam?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go Memphis in May. It's the World Championship.
Viral food videos.
Yes, the sliders, man. I can slide anything and it's going to go viral. So I'm a big fan of the
All right, I'm going to use that one. All right, last one. Craft beer or classic soda?
classic. Yeah, craft beer's okay, but I'm more of a domestic guy, so I'm gonna go classic soda.
All right. Well, Malcolm, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a lot of fun, man.
Always, dude. An hour goes fast when you're having fun, man. That's one thing we like about podcasts. I'm glad to see you getting into it, man, and I hope everything turns out great. I know it will. You've got a passion for it too. I see it.
Yeah.
For a long time, and I wish you nothing but the best, my friend.
Thank you so much, Malcolm. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, dudes. Have a good one, man.
All right. Bye-bye.